recognized for 5 minutes.
You have another member.
Yeah, he's going to go last.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. While I greatly appreciate the commentary of Mr. Goldberg, my questions were not directed to Mr. Goldberg. And there's a reason I didn't direct my questions to Mr. Goldberg. Mr. Goldberg is not a member of Congress. Mr. Goldberg doesn't have a vote. Mr. Goldberg has an opinion, and I respect his opinion. But my questions were directed to the members of Congress who have the opportunity to vote. Now, to you, Mr. Thomas, you indicated that the architecture for the transaction that took place, the $6 billion, was created by Congress. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I'm referring specifically to Section 1245 of the FY 2012 NDA, as well as additional restrictions added by the Iran Freedom and Counterproliferation Act in the next year's NDA.
And for edification purposes, you are with what entity, please?
I am a specialist in Middle Eastern affairs at the Congressional Research Service.
And that is an entity associated with what organization or what body, please?
We are part of the Library of Congress. We provide nonpartisan, authoritative information and analysis to all 535 members of Congress and their staff, all committees, and we work equally on behalf of all members of Congress.
The transaction that took place, the $6 billion in question, did that transaction take place in contravention of the law?
The administration issued waivers on September 11th pursuant to Section 1245 of the NDAA to facilitate the transfer of those funds from South Korea to Qatar.
And if those funds never get to Iran, can they be fungible as they relate to spending in Iran?
So I would say that the terms governing the use of those funds are the same as the restrictions that govern the use of Iranian funds that are held anywhere in the world, namely that they can only be used for non-sanctioned bilateral humanitarian trade. And that's the system that Congress set up, right? So that these funds had to stay in the jurisdiction where they originated and not ever basically touch Iran.
Mm. And the same Congress that produced this architecture that you called to my attention is a Congress that can change this architecture. Is that a fair statement?
Exactly.
They have a vote.
Yes, sir.
You don't have a vote, do you, Mr. Thomas? You work for an entity associated with Congress, but you don't have a vote, do you?
I do not, sir. I'm not a member of Congress.
Okay. So I think it's pretty fair to say that we, the members of Congress, may have some responsibilities, but what you have is an opinion, as is the case with the other witnesses. Now, moving on to something else. Hamas is a terrorist organization. What they did was a crime against humanity. Should never happen again. But I've lived long enough now and have the courage enough to say that we ought not allow innocent people, regardless of their place of origin, to be killed. I care about babies in Israel, but I also care about babies in Palestine. Those babies have lives too. We ought to be concerned about all babies. And we ought to be concerned about not just winning a war, but winning the peace. You can win a war and lose the peace. How you execute a war has a lot to do with the peace you will have. And I will tell you that while I did not did not co-sign the resolution, and there's a reason. I believe that we should have had language in there about a two-state solution to this problem. Because if Congress doesn't go on record, we give the impression that we may be abandoning the two-state solution. I have not abandoned it. I voted to fund these agreements that we've had with Israel. each and every one of them. But I did it because I thought we'd have a two-state solution. And without a two-state solution, I don't see a path to peace. I thank you for the time, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired, and I will note that, yes, we all do have a vote up here, and we're responsible for those votes and explaining those to our constituents. We also have staff that we rely on as well, and I've appreciated those opinions from former staff who have helped us as members.
In
with
response
that-
to your comment, Mr. Chairman, which you allowed yourself time for, I just asked for equal time. I respect the comments of staff too. I have no problem with staff. It's just that
Excellent.
we have the votes.
There we go. With that, gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Muser, is recognized for 5 minutes.